My mother stood in the center of the bridal suite, hands clasped under her chin, staring at my younger sister like she was witnessing a royal coronation instead of a wedding at a rented vineyard. "This is exactly how I imagined it for you, Olivia," she whispered, her eyes glossy with pride. Then she glanced at me, standing behind my sister, carefully fluffing the cathedral-length veil I had steamed myself, and added with a light, almost careless laugh, "Now if only we could get you down the aisle too, Claire. When's your turn?" The room filled with soft chuckles. My aunt shook her head sympathetically. One of Olivia's bridesmaids smirked into her champagne flute. I was still holding the veil in both hands when something inside me shifted. I let the fabric fall gently onto the hardwood floor, stepped back, and met my mother's expectant gaze. "It already happened," I said. The silence was instant and absolute. "My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 24 years old and I'm a freelance illustrator. I work from a tiny apartment downtown, take commissions from clients I've never met in person, and live on a budget so tight it sometimes feels like a second skin. But I pay my own rent. I bought my own laptop. I don't call my parents when my car needs repairs or when rent increases. I learned early that independence wasn't optional for me. It was expected. Olivia, on the other hand, was the dream child. 2 years younger, effortlessly charming, the kind of person who never met a stranger. She had the bright smile, the confidence, the energy that made teachers adore her and relatives shower her with praise. Growing up, she didn't just get attention, she absorbed it. When she got into a private university out of state, my parents hosted a party. When I enrolled in a local public college because it was all I could afford, they nodded approvingly and told me how practical I was. Olivia's tuition was paid in full. Mine came from scholarships, 2 part-time jobs, and loans I'm still repaying. I told myself I didn't mind. I told myself different kids needed different things. She needed support. I needed resilience. Then came the engagement. Olivia met Daniel at a networking event. He drove a car that gleamed like it belonged on a showroom floor and spoke with the easy confidence of someone who had never worried about overdraft fees. My parents adored him before they even knew his last name. Within 6 months, they were engaged. Within 8, my parents had put down a deposit on a vineyard that cost more than my annual rent. The engagement party was held in my parents' backyard. String lights hung from every tree. There was catered sushi, a live acoustic band, custom cocktails with their names printed on napkins. I didn't receive an invitation. I received instructions. "Come early," my mother texted. I arrived at 10 in the morning and didn't sit down until sunset. I arranged floral centerpieces, coordinated with the caterers, set up the welcome sign I had designed for free. When guests arrived, my parents greeted them at the gate like hosts of a magazine spread. "And this is our daughter Olivia and her fiancé Daniel," my father announced proudly to every new arrival. At one point, a family friend I hadn't seen in years approached me. "So, Claire, anyone special in your life?" Before I could answer, my mother laughed lightly from beside her. "Oh, Claire's married to her art. She doesn't have time for dating." Olivia gave me that gentle, pitying smile she had perfected. "She's just waiting for someone extraordinary. It'll happen someday." I swallowed whatever words tried to form and nodded. They never asked, not once. What they didn't know was that I had been in a relationship for almost 2 years. His name is Marcus. He's thoughtful and steady, works as a software engineer, and makes me feel seen in a way my family never quite managed. He'd met my friends, supported my freelance work, and quietly encouraged me when I doubted myself. But I never brought him home because they never asked. When Olivia asked me, through my mother, to be her maid of honor, I knew it wasn't really her choice. Her best friend expected the role, but my mother insisted family would look better in photos. I considered declining. I knew what it would mean, Months of errands, expenses I couldn't afford, emotional labor I'd never be thanked for. But I said yes. The bridal planning unfolded like a carefully choreographed performance I wasn't part of. I was added to group chats late. Decisions were made without me. When it came time to choose bridesmaids' gowns, Olivia selected a satin lavender gown that cost nearly $400. She said, "It's perfect, and you'll make it work." I paid for it with a credit card I'd sworn I wouldn't use again. The bridal shower was held at an upscale rooftop restaurant. The bill from my portion of the decorations alone was more than my grocery budget for the month. At the table, one of Olivia's college friends leaned towards me. "So, Claire, are you bringing a +1 to the wedding?" I opened my mouth. Olivia laughed gently. "Claire doesn't really date seriously. She's too independent for that." The table chuckled. I said nothing. 3 months before the wedding, Marcus and I stood in a quiet courthouse with two close friends and exchanged vows. There were no photographers, no string quartets, no floral arches. Just us. We signed the certificate, kissed, and went to dinner at a small Thai restaurant we loved. I wore a simple white dress I'd ordered online. He wore a navy suit he already owned. It was peaceful. It was ours. We decided not to tell my family right away. I told myself I'd wait until after Olivia's wedding. I didn't want it compared. I didn't want it dismissed as rushed or cheap. I didn't want my moment dissected and diminished. So I wore my ring on a chain under my blouse and showed up to every wedding task I was asked of. The week before the wedding, I spent hours finalizing seating charts, confirming vendor deliveries, and answering emails that should have gone to a professional planner. Olivia had spa appointments and hair trials. I had checklists. The morning of the ceremony, I arrived at the venue before anyone in the bridal party. I steamed dresses, I unpacked gift bags, I fetched coffee. When my mother made that comment in the bridal suite, "When's your turn?" something inside me refused to shrink again. "It already happened," I repeated calmly as the room stared. "What do you mean?" my mother asked sharply. "I got married 3 months ago." "You're joking." "I'm not," I said. "His name is Marcus. We had a small ceremony. It was exactly what we wanted." My mother's expression shifted from confusion to offense. "Why wouldn't you tell us?" I held her gaze steadily. "Because you never asked about my life. Not once." The words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. My father cleared his throat. "This isn't the time, Claire." "You're right, it isn't, but you asked." The ceremony proceeded. I did my duties. I held the bouquet, adjusted the veil, walked down the aisle beside a groomsman who barely knew my name. During the reception, my mother gave a glowing speech about Olivia's fairy tale love story. Then she added lightly, "Now we just have to get Claire settled." I stood, walked to the microphone, and repeated what I'd already said upstairs. The reaction was louder this time. Whispers rippled through the tables. My aunt gasped. Olivia looked furious. "You're trying to make this about you," she hissed. "I'm not," I said calmly. "I'm just correcting the narrative." I stepped away, removed the ring from the chain around my neck, and slid it onto my finger where it belonged. Marcus was waiting outside in the parking lot. He hadn't been invited. My family didn't even know his name until that moment. When I walked toward his car, he saw my face and opened his arms without a word. The next week was a storm of messages. My mother accused me of humiliating the family. Olivia said I had ruined her spotlight. My father insisted I should have handled it privately. A few cousins, however, sent quiet congratulations. For the first time, I didn't rush to smooth things over. I didn't apologize for existing. Marcus and I hosted a small dinner with our closest friends the following weekend. We toasted with inexpensive wine, laughed too loudly, and told the story without shame. I realized something in the quiet afterward. I had spent years believing that if I worked hard enough, supported enough, stayed quiet enough, they would eventually see me. But visibility doesn't come from silence. It comes from self-respect. They hadn't ignored me because I was invisible. They ignored me because it was convenient, and I had allowed it. Not anymore. If you've ever been the quiet sibling, the responsible one, the one who doesn't need anything, know this. Your milestones don't require a spotlight to be valid. Your love doesn't need their applause. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say isn't loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's simply this: it already happened.